They say that in Chicago, the wind doesn't just blow, it cuts. It finds the gaps in your coat, the seams in your scarf, and it presses against your skin until you feel brittle, like you might snap right there on the sidewalk. But that cold is nothing compared to the temperature of a boardroom when silence falls. Real, absolute silence. The kind where you can hear the hum of the projector fan and the dry swallow of the person sitting next to you. I remember that silence better than I remember my own wedding vows. My name is Madison. I am 34 years old. I live in an apartment that overlooks the gray expanse of the lake, and until 6 months ago, I was a director of strategy at one of the city's most aggressive PR firms. I was good. No, I was exceptional. I had given that firm my 20s. I had given them my sleep, my sanity, and ultimately, my marriage. When my husband, David, packed his bags a year ago, citing my emotional unavailability and my addiction to the glowing screen of my laptop, I didn't even chase him. I had a pitch deck due the next morning for a pharmaceutical giant. I cried for 10 minutes in the shower, washed my face with ice water, and went back to work. That was the level of my dedication. That was who I was. A machine, a soldier in high heels. And that is exactly why I didn't see the knife coming until it was buried to the hilt in my back. The hand holding the knife belonged to Elena. You need to understand something about corporate friendship. It is a fragile ecosystem. But Elena and I, we were different. Or so I told myself. We were the only 2 women at the director level in our division. We called ourselves the War Council. We spent late nights ordering Thai food to the office, kicking off our shoes under the glass table, and dissecting the weaknesses of our male counterparts. When David left me, Elena was the one who poured the wine. She was the one who listened to me sob at 200 a.m. about how I felt like a failure as a woman. She held my hand. She told me that I was a phoenix, that I was shedding dead weight to rise higher. I trusted her with my passwords. I trusted her with my insecurities. I trusted her with the darkest, most pathetic corners of my grieving heart. The project was called the Aurora Initiative. It was my baby. It was the campaign that was going to secure my promotion to partner. I had spent 4 months building it, a complete rebranding strategy for a tech conglomerate that was trying to humanize its image. It was brilliant. It was vulnerable. It was the best work of my life. Because I was drowning in the divorce proceedings, I asked Elena to proofread the final deck. Just a sanity check. "I got you, Maddie," she said. Her smile was warm. Her eyes were crinkled with what looked like genuine empathy. "Go home. Sleep. You look like a ghost. I'll polish the formatting and upload it to the server for the morning meeting." I went home. I slept for the first time in weeks, believing I was safe. The meeting the next morning was the most important hour of my career. The CEO, the board, the client's executive team, everyone was there. I stood up, smoothed my skirt, and clicked the remote to start the presentation. The first slide was fine, the title slide. But when I clicked to the second slide, the slide that was supposed to hold my core strategy, my market analysis, my genius, it wasn't there. Instead, the screen filled with a chaotic, disjointed mess of emails. My emails. Private emails I had written to David during the breakdown of our marriage. Desperate, angry, pleading emails where I admitted I was struggling to focus, where I mentioned taking anxiety medication, where I sounded unhinged. The silence hit instantly. I froze. I clicked again, frantically, trying to bypass it. The next slide was worse. It was a crude, unfinished mock-up of the campaign with typos everywhere and a watermark that said, DRFT, Madison. The CEO's voice was low, dangerous. I don't understand, I stammered. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped the remote. It clattered on the mahogany table like a gunshot. This isn't the file. I uploaded the final version last night, and then Elena spoke. She didn't sound malicious. She didn't sound triumphant. She sounded concerned. Deeply, motherly concerned. She leaned forward, her voice pitched perfectly, so the whole room could hear the pity in it. Madison, sweetie, she said softly. We talked about this. I told you I couldn't cover for you anymore. I know the divorce has been devastating. I know you haven't been sleeping. I know you've been mixing up files and forgetting deadlines. I spun around to look at her. What? She looked at the CEO, her eyes wide with performative reluctance. I'm so sorry, sir. Madison has been under immense psychological pressure. I tried to help her with the deck last night, but she wasn't making sense. She insisted on uploading this version. I think she's having a breakdown. That is a lie, I screamed. The sound tore out of my throat before I could stop it. She is lying! She has the real file. But I looked crazy. I looked exactly like the woman described in those leaked emails. Hysterical, medicated, broken. The client looked uncomfortable. The CEO looked furious. That's enough, the CEO said. He didn't even look at me. He looked at security. Elena, can you salvage this meeting? Elena stood up, smooth, calm, professional. I can, sir. I actually prepared a backup strategy just in case Madison couldn't perform today. She plugged in her laptop. And there on the screen was my work, my strategy, my graphics. But she had changed the headers. She had rebranded it as her own. I had to rebuild it from her notes. Elena lied, effortlessly. It's a little rough, but the core idea is here. I was escorted out of the building. I wasn't fired immediately. HR is too careful for that. I was placed on mandatory medical leave. But it was over. My reputation in Chicago was incinerated. I was the unstable divorcee who cracked under pressure. Elena was the hero who stepped in to save the account. I went home to my empty apartment. I sat on the floor in the dark. I didn't cry. I felt a coldness spreading through my chest, freezing everything it touched. The sadness was gone. The grief for my marriage was gone. All that was left was a singular, diamond, hard clarity. Elena didn't just steal my promotion. She stole my dignity. She used my pain as a weapon. She weaponized my vulnerability. And for that, she had to pay. The first month of my exile was a blur of numbness. I ignored the calls from HR. I ignored the pitying texts from former colleagues who just wanted gossip. I spent my days staring at the gray waves of Lake Michigan, drinking black coffee, and replaying that meeting in my head. Every frame. Every pixel of Elena's expression. The way she had sighed. The tilt of her head. It was a masterpiece of social engineering. She hadn't just attacked me. She had framed her betrayal as an act of mercy. She was the concerned friend, and I was the tragic liability. If I tried to fight back, if I tried to scream the truth, I would only prove her point. I would look paranoid. I realized then that I couldn't fight her with fire. I couldn't make a scene. A scene is what she wanted. I had to be water. I had to be invisible. I had to seep into the cracks of her foundation and rot it from the inside out. I started by accepting the narrative. I agreed to the severance package. I signed the NDA. I sent a handwritten letter to the CEO and a copy to Elena, apologizing for my episode. I wrote that I was seeking treatment, that I was grateful for their patience, and that Elena was right to intervene. It was the hardest thing I have ever written. Every word tasted like bile. But it worked. Elena sent me a text a week later. "Oh, Maddie, I'm so glad you're getting help. I miss you. Hate that it happened this way, but you need to heal. Love you." I didn't reply. I just stared at the screen and smiled. It was a cold smile. She thought I was gone. She thought I was defeated. She thought she was safe. She had been promoted to partner. I saw it on LinkedIn. Elena Vance appointed partner, leading the Aurora account. The comments were full of praise. Well deserved. A powerhouse. I printed that photo of her, smiling, holding a glass of champagne, and taped it to my bathroom mirror. It was the first thing I saw in the morning and the last thing I saw at night. I needed intel, but I couldn't get it from inside the company. I was persona non grata, so I had to get it from the edges. I knew Elena's vices. I knew her weaknesses because we used to laugh about them. Weakness number 1, she was lazy. She was brilliant at presenting, but she hated the grunt work. She outsourced everything she could juniors and interns, often without checking the quality. Weakness number 2, she was insecure about her tech literacy. She relied heavily on automated tools and assistants to manage her schedule and her data. Weakness number 3, she was having an affair. Not a casual fling. A full-blown affair with the client, the VP of marketing at the tech conglomerate she had stolen from me. His name was Greg. He was married, with 3 kids in the suburbs. That was how she secured the account so quickly after my breakdown. It wasn't just the work, it was the pillow talk. I knew about Greg because she had hinted at it during our wine nights, enjoying the thrill of the secret. "He's so powerful, Maddie," she'd whispered. "It's intoxicating." I didn't want to expose the affair. That was too messy, too cliché, and honestly, in our industry, people survive affairs. It might even make her more interesting. No. I wanted to destroy her professional competence. I wanted to make her look exactly how she had made me look: incompetent, unstable, and dangerous to the business. I began to track her digital footprint. It wasn't hard. I knew her patterns. I knew she used the same password variation for her personal cloud as she did for her old Netflix account we used to share. Elena Wins, 23. She was arrogant. She never thought she needed to change it. I logged into her personal cloud. I didn't touch anything. I just watched. I saw the synced calendar. I saw the backups of her phone photos. I saw the drafts of her speeches. The annual Industry Innovators Gala was coming up in 3 months. It was the Oscars of the Chicago marketing world. Elena was the keynote speaker. She was going to present the Aurora campaign's success. It was her victory lap. It was also my deadline. I needed a way in. I needed a Trojan horse. I found it in a junior analyst named Liam. Liam was a kid fresh out of college, eager, terrified, and completely overworked. I saw his name all over Elena's calendar. Review Liam's data. Liam, fix slides. Liam, coffee. I engineered a chance meeting. I knew Liam worked late. I knew he went to the sandwich shop across the street from the office around 7 p.m. I waited there for 3 nights. On the 4th night, he walked in. He looked exhausted. Gray skin, shaking hands. He looked like me. I approached him while he was waiting for his panini. Lime. He jumped. He recognized me instantly. His eyes went wide with fear. Madison. I'm not supposed to talk to you. Relax, I said, putting on my best, softest smile. The smile of a woman who has found peace. I'm not a ghost. I just wanted to say hi. I hear you're working with Elena on the Aurora account. He relaxed. Just a fraction. Yeah. It's intense. I bet, I said. She expects perfection. Listen, I know I left under a cloud, but I still care about that work. It was my baby once. How is she treating you? The dam broke. It took about 5 minutes. He hated her. She stole credit for his ideas. She yelled at him for her mistakes. She made him do her personal errands. I'm drowning, he admitted, looking at his shoes. She wants me to build the dynamic visualization for the Gala keynote. It's supposed to be this live, real, time data rendering of the campaign's reach. But the API is buggy. I can't get it to work. If it fails, she'll fire me. My heart stopped, then started beating in a heavy, war drum rhythm. Real, time data rendering, I asked. Yeah. It pulls live tweets and engagement stats and projects them onto the big screen behind her while she talks. It's supposed to be the wow factor. I can help you, I whispered. What? I know that API, Liam. I built the original architecture for it before I left. I can fix the code for you. You don't have to tell her. You just take the credit. Save your job. He looked at me. He was suspicious, but he was also desperate. Why would you do that? Because. I lied, looking him dead in the eye. I want the work to shine, and honestly, I miss it. Let me help you, Liam. Let's make her look good. He sent me the code repository link that night. I was in. For the next 2 months, I lived a double life. By day, I was the recovering divorcee, taking yoga classes and attending therapies, which I actually did, and it helped keep me focused. By night, I was a coder in the shadows. I fixed Liam's code. I really did. I made it faster, sleeker, more reliable. He was ecstatic. You're a lifesaver, Madison. He texted me. She actually complimented me today. Said the visualization looks clean. Good, I replied. Keep it locked. Don't let anyone else touch it. But buried deep within that code, hidden under layers of legitimate script, I planted a seed, a logic bomb. The visualization was designed to pull social media comments with specific positive hashtags about the client. It would filter them and display them in a beautiful, flowing river of text behind Elena as she spoke. My modification was simple. It was triggered by a specific timestamp. The gala was scheduled for November 12th. Elena's speech was at 8:00 p.m. At 8:15 p.m., exactly when she would be reaching her crescendo, the filter would invert. Instead of pulling public tweets with positive hashtags, the script would redirect. It would pull from a specific, private database I had connected, and what was in that database? It wasn't just insults. That would be petty. No, I had spent weeks curating the content. I had taken the transcripts of Elena's voice notes to herself, tasks from her cloud backup. I had taken the screenshots of her text messages to Greg, the married client. And most damning of all, I had the metadata logs showing that the Aurora. Files were created on my computer, by me, months before she claimed to have written them. But I didn't want to just dump data. I wanted it to be art. I formatted the text to look like the positive tweets. Same font. Same fluller. Same flow. At first, no one would notice. The audience would see the beautiful river of words. But as they read closely, the words wouldn't be great brand or love the product. They would be Elena's own words. Her snide comments about the board members sitting in the front row. Her mocking of the client's intelligence. Greg is such a puppy. I just have to scratch his ears, and he signs the check. The CEO is a dinosaur. Can't wait until he retires so I can gut the department. And then, the visuals. I programmed the background to slowly morph. Not abruptly, subtly. The colors would shift from the client's brand blue to a sickly, warning red. And the live data graph would change from sales figures to a timeline. A timeline of the file thefts. I tested it 100 times on my laptop. It was perfect. The week before the gala, I stopped contacting Liam. I ghosted him. I needed distance. If anyone investigated the code later, they would see Liam's login credentials. They would see his IP address at the office. My digital fingerprints were scrubbed, routed through 3 different VPNs in Eastern Europe. I wasn't worried about Liam. He was young. He would claim ignorance. He would say the API malfunctioned. He would be fired, yes, but he would recover. He was collateral damage. I felt a twinge of guilt. But then I remembered the bathroom floor. I remembered the silence. The night of the gala arrived. I wasn't invited, of course. But I didn't need to be there. The event was being live-streamed globally. I dressed up. I put on my favorite black dress, the one I wore to my anniversary dinner the year before David left. I poured myself a glass of expensive red wine. I sat in my living room, dimmed the lights, and cast the livestream to my 65-inch TV. It was like watching a gladiatorial execution from the Emperor's box. The ballroom was glittering, crystal chandeliers, tuxedos, false smiles. There was Elena. She looked stunning in emerald green. She looked victorious. She was laughing with the CEO, touching his arm lightly. She looked at Greg, the client, and gave him a subtle, intimate nod. She had no idea that she was standing on a trapdoor. The host introduced her. A visionary, he said, the woman who saved the Aurora campaign. The applause was thunderous. Elena took the stage. She adjusted the microphone. She beamed. "Thank you," she began. Her voice was smooth, confident. "Innovation isn't just about data. It's about truth. It's about the authentic connection between a brand and its people." I took a sip of wine. "A truth," I whispered. "Let's talk about truth." Elena. She signaled to the tech booth. "Let me show you the heartbeat of this campaign." The massive screen behind her lit up. The visualization began. It was beautiful. Streams of data, floating particles of light, positive words flowing like a river. The audience gasped in appreciation. She continued her speech, pacing the stage. She was 5 minutes in, 10 minutes in. I checked my watch. 8:14 p.m. "We built this on trust," Elena said. "On transparency." 8:15 p.m. On the screen, the river of text flickered. Just for a microsecond. Then it stabilized. But the words had changed. At first, nobody noticed. Elena certainly didn't. Her back was to the screen. She was basking in the spotlight. But then, I saw a woman in the front row frown. She leaned forward, squinting. Then she nudged the man next to her. He looked up. His jaw dropped. The text flowing behind Elena's head now read F. God, this client is exhausted. I have to dumb down every slide for them. Sick. Marketing is for idiots who can't do math. Just dazzle them with colors. Say, I can't believe Madison actually bought the Friendship Act. Pathetic. A murmur started in the room. A low ripple of confusion. Elena heard it. She faltered slightly but kept going. The metrics speak for themselves. The screen shifted again. The sales growth graph dissolved and reformed. It was now labeled THFTMLR PAROJTORR. It showed side-by-side file comparisons. My original creation date vs her recovery date. The murmur turned into a gasp. Someone in the back laughed. A nervous, shocked sound. Is something wrong? Elena asked, looking out at the confused faces. She turned around, and she saw it. She saw her own text messages to Greg projected 20 feet high. Greg is leaving his wife in May. Then the account is locked down forever. The camera cut to Greg in the audience. His face was draining of blood. His wife was sitting right next to him. She wasn't looking at the screen anymore. She was looking at him. Elena froze. It was the same freeze I had experienced in the boardroom. The exact same posture, the hand reaching out as if to physically stop the pixels. "Turn it off!" she shrieked. Her voice cracked. "Cut the feed! It's a hack! It's a lie!" But it wasn't a lie. It was her life. The visualization accelerated. It started cycling through the mental breakdown, emails she had forged in my name, contrasting them with the metadata showing they were sent from Mars, her device. The silence returned to the room. That heavy, suffocating silence. Elena looked small. The emerald dress didn't look victorious anymore. It looked like a costume. She looked at the CEO. He wasn't looking at security this time. He was looking at her with a mixture of horror and disgust. She looked at the camera. For a second, I swear she looked right at me. Through the lens, through the fiber optics, right into my living room. She knew. In that moment, she knew. I didn't smile. I didn't cheer. I just watched. The fallout was nuclear. The live stream was cut 10 seconds later, but 10 seconds on the internet is an eternity. Clips were on Twitter before the gala was even over. The hashtag #FemAuroraFail was trending worldwide by morning. Elena was fired before she left the building. The client, humiliated by the public revelation of the affair and the mockery, pulled the account the next day. The agency's stock dipped 12%. Greg's wife filed for divorce. And me. I was sitting in a coffee shop 3 days later when my phone rang. It was the CEO. "Madison," he said. His voice was tired. "I think we need to talk." He offered me my job back. He offered me a promotion. He offered me a raise that was frankly obscene. He told me they knew now that I had been framed. He apologized. He wanted me to come back and right the ship. I held the phone to my ear and looked out the window. It was raining. The Chicago winter was settling in, turning the world gray and sharp. I thought about walking back into that glass tower. I thought about sitting in that boardroom again. I thought about the people who had watched me get escorted out and said nothing, who were now ready to welcome me back as a hero just because the wind had changed direction. "No," I said. "Excuse me." "No, thank you," I said calmly. "I don't want the job. Madison, be reasonable. We can make this right." "You can't," I said. "You broke the trust. Not just Elena. You. The culture that allowed her to thrive is the culture you built. I don't belong there anymore. I hung up. I sold my apartment the next week. I packed my life into 6 boxes. I didn't feel triumphant. That's the thing about revenge that movies don't tell you. It doesn't fill the hole. It just cleans the wound so it can finally scar over. I had destroyed Elena. Yes, she was ruined. She would never work in this town again. But I was still divorced. I was still alone. And I was colder now. I had done something cruel, justified, perhaps, but cruel. I had used a young kid, Liam, as a pawn. I had humiliated a woman in front of thousands. I had become a little bit like her to defeat her. I'm driving south now. I don't know where I'm going. Maybe Austin. Maybe Nashville. Somewhere warmer. Somewhere the wind doesn't cut so deep. I have my laptop. I have my talent. I have my name back. But as I watch the Chicago skyline fade in the rearview mirror, a jagged line of glass and steel against the sky, I know I'm leaving a part of my soul back there on the pavement. I won the war. But I'm not sure I survived the victory.